Finance Committee to order.
What do you know?
Consideration of claims to be paid. I would like a motion for that.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a consideration of claims to be paid in the amount of $574,517.39. A lawn credit card in the amount of $6,993.42. Payroll and liabilities for August 9th, 2024 in the amount of $230,752.23. For a total of $812,263.04.
I
Second.
have a second on this one.
Second.
Any questions that you want to ask on this?
No,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Butterfield, do you have anything to add or delete?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have anything, Mia, from you? Okay, we close, call this meeting 7:48, 6:48 for the Finance Committee adjourned.
I call the August 20th, 2024 regular meeting of the City Council to order at 7 p.m. Councilmember Larson has agreed to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then Councilmember Bailey will then give us the invocation. If everyone could please remove their hats.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dearest Heavenly Father, thank you for the many blessings that we are able to enjoy. Thank you for the ability to live here in this wonderful city of Riverton and the state of Wyoming. Please bless all of us and all that we do. Please bless that we may make good decisions for the city of Riverton and all of its citizens. Thank you for the blessing of being able to participate in our government, especially today during the election, that we can participate in picking our representatives throughout the government. Please bless all of the police, firemen, military, all of them as they do their jobs protecting us every day, that they will be safe. And please bless us in all that we do today. And we ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Administrative Services Director, Mrs. Harris, would you please conduct the roll call?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilmember Dean Peranto.
Absent.
Councilmember Lindsay Cox. Here. Councilmember Mike Bailey.
Here.
Councilmember Carla Borders.
Absent.
Councilmember Kyle Larson.
Present.
Councilmember Christy Salisbury.
Present.
And Mayor Tim Hancock.
I am here. I'd entertain a motion to excuse Councilmember Borders and Councilmember Pronto, who are absent from the meeting tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Cox with the motion, Councilman Bailey with the second. Any discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
I would like it noted that Dean Perano and Carla are participating in our election, and therefore they're at a higher calling.
I agree. Yep. It's Carla Borders is serving as an election judge tonight, and Councilman Peranto, with his IT responsibilities, is making sure everything runs smoothly. So, thank you, and I appreciate their work in that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. I vote aye. Motion passes. I also declare we have a quorum. I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Councilmember Larson with the motion, Councilwoman Salisbury with the second. Discussion, amendments, additions, subtractions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. I vote aye. Motion passes. Introduction and oath of office. Police Lieutenant, Police Chief's report, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The search for someone to be selected as our police lieutenant started several months ago. In total, we had 14 applicants, internal and external, literally from coast to coast, that applied. The process included a written exam, several oral board examinations, and extensive background examination. The candidates were evaluated by both internal and external law enforcement leaders. The search for the ideal candidate included a strong knowledge and skills in areas of patrol tactics, investigations, traffic acts investigations, drug enforcement, internal affairs, and community policing and trust building. We've concluded our search. We found a candidate with over 20 years' experience, 6 of which has been in the capacity of a sergeant. Our candidate joined the Air Force in 1991. He served for 4 years and 5 months as a law enforcement specialist. Began his law enforcement career in Roseburg, where he served as patrol officer, multidiscipline instructor, investigations, and he was promoted to sergeant in 2002. In 2006, he left police work, where he worked for a major firearms manufacturer, SIG, where he managed 4 departments: quality engineering, test engineering, calibration, and armory. In 2019, he returned to law enforcement as Patrol Investigation Sergeant in Idaho, where he held many assignments such as Armor Range Master, Firearms Instructor and Program Manager, Field Training Officer, and member of a SWAT team. His hobbies include reading, gunsmithing, backpacking, fishing, and from what I understand, he spends a few minutes in gym each week. This time I'd like to invite Keith Wharton to please step forward to administer the oath of office by Runner.
Meet you down there. All right. You need to read it. If I mumble or anything, we can use that.
Okay.
And after I say your name, not my name.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Raise your right hand. I
I, Heath T. Wharton,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wyoming,
and the Constitution of the State of Wyoming,
that I have not knowingly violated
that I have not knowingly violated
any law related to my appointment,
any law related to my appointment,
nor caused it to be done by others,
nor caused it to be done by others,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Welcome aboard. All right, thank you. And then usually.
Welcome aboard. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. I know, you got me speechless for a second.
Thank you, Lieutenant, for being willing to serve, and excited to be able to see you around in the community. Traditionally, we have a 30-minute speech. No. Maybe we could do that another time. Thank you, I appreciate it. All right, council committee reports and council members roundtable. Let's start with you, Councilwoman Cox.
Thank you, Your Honor. I actually have not been to any meetings since our last meeting. I took a quick trip with my family before school started, so I was not in town to attend anything.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Bailey?
Thank you. I did attend the Force Committee meeting where they discussed many of the projects that went on this summer. So they basically totally rebuilt Major Avenue from Sunset to Park Street. That was a full-depth repair. They also did a full-depth repair on part of College View, again from about Sunset to Main Street. And then they did slurry sealing on a whole bunch of streets in town. I think if I remember correctly, the total area that we covered this year was 8 miles of pavement that got either totally redone or slurry sealed or chip sealed. And so we have a little bit of time left in the season. We've got a couple other little projects that they might try to squeeze in this year. But again, depending on whether the contractors are busy or what they've got going. And then pretty soon we'll start the process of analyzing the projects that need to be looked at for next year and getting the engineering and all of that process done so they can be bid early in the year, which so far has always saved us a lot of money, getting those bids out early so that we get the contractors when they're hungry coming out of the winter instead of when they're busier than heck this time of year. So it went good. Again, that group is very considerate of the taxpayers' needs, and they're a very frugal bunch, to say the least. And so they're very careful how they spend the tax dollars and make sure it meets the specification of the law as it was passed. So other than that, I missed the airport board meeting. I think Dean would have reported on that. But again, things are up there cranking, and we've got 2 flights a day, and they're busy. So that's good to see.
I do have the report from Dean, and I'll share that with
Okay,
my
good.
report too, so, which, as Dean typically is fairly verbose. which is fine.
Do you guys have any idea when Sunset will be on the list? That's my question. They're like, why'd they do major in college and not Sunset?
Just to make them mad, you know. Again,
I said, well, it's the fourth.
they go through a pretty extensive process of analyzing the streets, the different needs that we have, looking at the water and sewer that's underneath, if it's scheduled to be done, that sort of, you know, we don't want to do a pavement and then turn around the next year and dig it up and put a water and sewer line in or something and tear up a brand-new street. So they try to coordinate that kind of stuff. And again, we can't do them all or you wouldn't be able to get to the hospital. So it's one of those, they sort of prioritize the worst ones first and the next one second. And I think it is definitely on top of the list coming for next year. So
I guess just as a reminder for our citizens, the FORCE Committee, or Fix Our Roads Citizen Committee, is it's basically functions with feedback. If you have a road that you think is particularly in poor condition and you want to make sure that they know about it, I would encourage you to attend the meetings and say, hey, my road is terrible, and let them know. So, I mean, that's really,
'cause, yeah, believe it or not, in the city of Riverton, we have over 80 miles of roadway. So if we can continue like we've been doing 8 miles a year, we can get the whole thing done in 10 years, and it'll be time to start over and redo it again because it'll be back in
yeah.
bad shape. So
Well, and I think the slurry seal project has been really good too, being able to ensure the age, you know, roads as they start to get older, the biggest enemy of roads, of course, is water. So
Yep.
being able to keep that out. Councilman Larson.
Your Honor, I attended the Solid Waste Committee, but before I did that, I visited Yellowstone Park with all the other visitors and visited and saw bears, and I saw lots of buffalo and lots of tourists. And the only sad thing I find in that whole experience is that we don't get 1 red cent from the money spent in Yellowstone Park. Now with that, solid waste, we are almost 65% done with the construction over in Lander with its facilities because at some point in time, we're going to close Lander down. We are about 70% done with Sandral. And the interesting thing was the extra charge for the sand, imagine that, found in at depths that were unusual. And so they had to dig that down, which was unforeseen even with all their drilling and sampling. So that's what I've done. And we're in good shape.
Good. All right, Councilwoman Salisbury.
I attended the Finance Committee earlier, and the only other thing is I had a family member fortunate enough to be on the plane when the fuel trucks were not there, and so she missed her flight, and she missed her flight in Denver. So I was like, I don't know why we don't have fuel trucks, but I'm sure someone on the airport board will share it with us. That's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Butterfield, maybe you could tell us about fuel.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd appreciate the opportunity to talk about fuel. As mentioned in your weekly report, we did have an incident recently at the airport where the fixed base operator did run out of fuel. Mr. Eggleston and Mr. Ransom have had meetings with the local representatives and also the regional representatives that run the FBO. And essentially there was an error on the part of the FBO. They ran out of fuel. They were behind on their order. And they've assured Mr. Eggleston that it will not happen again. Mr. Eggleston and Mr. Ransom explained to them the difficult position that they put our airport in, the flying public in, and also our relationship with United Airlines. As these flights are delayed, as you can imagine, United Airlines receives quite a few calls and opportunities for feedback. And it wasn't anything to do with United, it just had to do with a supply issue. So Mr. Eggleston and Mr. Ransom have addressed the issue, and we've received confirmation from the FBO that they will not allow that to happen again.
Thank you for your fuel report.
You're welcome, and we do apologize for that because we take a lot of pride in the reliability of the airport. There are instances when weather or mechanicals may impact the general public's flights, but supply of fuel should never be an issue that causes a delay. And we feel pretty strongly about it, and the FBO now knows that we feel very strongly about it as well.
Mr. Butterfield, United was delayed in Denver too, so they were doing the same thing, only it wasn't fuel, so.
So, Your Honor, Councilwoman, they could blame part of it on themselves and part on FBO. Moving to other updates, want to say thank you to the Riverton Rotary Club and the other community members, the downtowners, and so many others that participated in the community cleanup this last Saturday. It was a valuable exercise, and we appreciate the attitude of the community to go out and serve and to make a difference. Also recognize that there are always wonderful things going on in Riverton. The Pink Ribbon Run happened this last weekend. It's my understanding that that was the best attended run to date as they've been doing that. And also this weekend is the Beef Roundup, and we look forward to seeing that. Mr. McCann has been texting me and letting me know internationally and nationally the attention that they're getting, and we're really proud of what they're doing, and we appreciate how they're promoting Riverton. The Edge Committee meeting occurred this last Thursday, and they had opportunity to discuss the recent awards made by the City Council, and then also the next round of funding and soliciting interest from community members that would like to apply for funds from the optional 0.5%. They are opening up another application period for the month of September, so it'll open in a few days and close at the end of that month. The Edge Committee will then have opportunity to review those applications and make recommendations to you as a City Council. Last week, we also had a public meeting here at City Hall for the Chapter 56 permit. As a reminder, that is a permit that allows for hunting in town to reduce the urban deer population. This would be the third time the city's participated in this program. We'd like to express appreciation to the police department and specifically to our animal control officer, Shannon Sanderson, for her coordination. We had several interested parties attend the meeting, those that are wanting to participate as hunters. They received information from Game and Fish and then Ms. Sanderson as well. There will be a Planning Commission meeting this upcoming Thursday at 5:30, and that will be here in the council chambers, and we do invite the public to attend that meeting. I want to say thank you to our Public Works team and our police department as they coordinated with Fremont County School District 25. Today was the return for school. Like many of you, I can't believe that summer's already over and that my kids are going back to school. But we're grateful for the partnership we have with the school district. The police department made extra efforts to be available and visible as children were returning to school this morning. Public Works has been working on refreshing crosswalks, and they'll continue to do so throughout this week as it's the first week of school. Also like to express gratitude to Superintendent Ibosh. She's had several meetings with myself, Chief of Police, and other leaders in the department to talk about the school resource program. There was some miscommunication in the community about whether or not the school resource program would continue, and I think it's important to state that it is continuing. The city values its partnership with the school district, and the school district also values the partnership with us, understands the staffing levels that we have, and we've established a schedule with Superintendent Ibod to ensure that there is still coverage at the schools, but also that we have coverage in our community, especially on shifts where we may be short-staffed. So we appreciate that coordination, but we do want to dispel any miscommunication that the school resource program was going away. It is not. I also had a conversation with Riverton Volunteer Fire Department Police Chief Blumenshine. He's expressed interest in extending the county-wide fire ban into the city of Riverton. Currently, the city of Riverton is independent of the fire ban that's imposed by the county commissioners. However, the chief has observed a few opportunities where it would have been beneficial if the fire ban would have been imposed within the city of Riverton boundaries. As we've looked into the situation, in order for you as a city council to mirror that fire ban, it's likely we'll need to propose an ordinance. State statute does empower you as the governing body to take action for the health, safety, and welfare of the residents that live within the incorporated boundaries of the city. You also have vested powers to abate nuisances. However, when it comes to fire restrictions and fire bans, as it's listed in state statute, it only applies to county commissioners. Within our municipal ordinance, we do address fires, but not necessarily fire bans. Mr. Miller, as our building official, is established as the city's fire marshal, and he would have the opportunity to make a recommendation to you as it relates to a proposed ordinance along with Chief Blumenshine. And we'd love to get maybe a consensus or your thoughts as to whether or not you'd like us to work on an ordinance as it relates to empowering the city council to establish fire bans when requested either by our fire marshal as designated by our ordinance or in coordination with the volunteer fire department. And I definitely defer to Mr. Miller if he had anything that he'd like to add on this subject at this time.
Mr. Miller?
Yeah, Your Honor. Kyle, thank you. I put some information out in the weekly just shortly around July 12th. On July 12th, County Fire Warden Craig Haslam instituted a Stage 1 fire ban for Fremont County, which is pretty standard after the 4th of July. We hit a period where the RH is low enough and the weather patterns are right for fire to become dangerous. Like Kyle had said, in conversations with Chief Blumenshine with the Volunteer Fire Department, which we work really close together in a lot of aspects, there was some concerns that that ban does stricken out any jurisdiction inside Fremont County that's a city, town, or other jurisdiction besides the county itself. We have some decent fire regulations on a full year basis, but we do not currently have the ability to just set out a short-term fire ban to help protect the city in those dangers. After noticing at least 3 or 4 separate instances where on a red flag day we have somebody out with a propane torch burning weeds in an open pasture at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which is about a trifecta of really bad things going on. Chief and myself both thought that it would be a good idea if we were to look at some of those regulations and our ability to make them. Wyoming State Statute 359303 empowers the county commissioner and the county warden to do so and sets the regulations in which they do that. That does not, however, empower municipalities to do that because municipalities have their codes separate, as Mr. Butterfield had said. So my ask and Chief Blumenshine's ask is, if you so see fit, Chief and I would like to propose some regulation that would allow City Council to place a fire ban and provide language to do so. So we could do that in short order if it was deemed necessary. And I'd stand for any questions on that.
Okay. Any thoughts from the council? We're not going to put it to a vote today, but I guess the question really is this a worthwhile thing to start the process with? And if there's consensus in that regard.
Your Honor, I think it probably is a good idea. Unfortunately, by the time we get it all through the system, we're not going to be able to do anything this year, but I think having it in our toolbox when we need it in the future, I think would be a good idea.
Any other thoughts?
I agree.
Anybody that disagrees? let's get a proposal done. We can get it out there, we can get it to the public and see where things are at. I was just looking at Title 15, which of course is the empowering title for the city, and have the authority to declare and abate nuisances and impose fines upon parties who can create, continue, or permit nuisances to exist. I think there's the authority for it there. Now, the question is if we would do the same as like the county does upon consideration that we could declare a fire ban and basically say any sort of fire that's not, kind of like they do, any fire that's not in a already established fire ring or that kind of thing would be declared a nuisance, and then you could be fined. It'd be that simple in terms of the authority. So I think it's worthwhile to get it in front of the council, get in front of the public, and talk about it.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. We appreciate your consensus on that. We'll bring an ordinance forward in the near future, and pursuant to our standard practice, it'll have 3 readings and opportunity for public comment. With that, Your Honor, I don't have anything else to share with you.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
I have one thing that I forgot to mention. This last Saturday, the Riverton Rotary Club organized a community cleanup, which was chaired by my wife, so if I don't mention it, I'm gonna get shot when I get home. But we had somewhere around 50 people showed up on Saturday, and we did multiple areas of the city, picked up trash, cut weeds, that kind of stuff. We filled 4 city dumpsters full of trash and weeds and all that kind of stuff. We had several groups participated in supplying us gloves and trash pickers and bags and all that kind of stuff. YDOT, Walmart, Ace Hardware, my business, we supplied water and coffee and some of that kind of stuff. And then we had participants from the Job Corps, provided several people to come help. Eagles Hope, Walmart supplied a crew. And again, we had about a total of 50 people overall. So I think it was very productive, and we did a good job, and we hope to continue to do that every year if we can. So I think it's a good idea.
Spoke to a probation agent that was saying they wanted to have some opportunities for service for probationers because they might have that as a requirement. And I know that was one of the things that I had told them about, was that was a possibility, and they might have been there, whether it was
They were,
immediately obvious or not. But I think that's I thought especially
Well,
from them.
the probation officer was there, not the probationary.
Probationary. Oh, well, there might be a warrant for that
So,
probationer.
that's right. So hopefully she was motivated by that as a good activity for her clients.
Yeah. Well, good deal. All right. I say this when we have a probation officer in the audience right now. I won't put that officer on the spot, though, to find out whether had any probationers attend. Okay, a couple of things. I just wanted to note, you mentioned Yellowstone, and I had the opportunity, I was in City Park with my kids a couple of weeks ago. I know some people think that they don't go to City Park with their kids. I go to City Park with my kids pretty frequently. It's fun. I mean, it's a lot of fun. And ran into a family of 2 parents and then maybe 3 or 4 or 5 adult children and then a lot of grandchildren. They were basically all caravanning to Yellowstone, and Yellowstone didn't get the money from people staying overnight. We did. So, I mean, people do that, and it was a large family. I mean, I'm talking all those kids and then the next generation, and some of them were, and then they were buying gas, I'm sure. So anyway, it is interesting, and I think, we still get the benefits of Yellowstone, even though we're not there. They don't get the money from people staying overnight, at least, so we get that. I don't know if that's a brag or just anything.
Definitely contributes to the economy of the state of Wyoming.
Does.
No doubt about it.
Bill McComsey retired after how many years? 14 years. So I just wanted to recognize him. We have a lot of people that when they retire or leave employment with the city, they don't come in here so that we can give them a gold watch or a pat on the back or whatever it is. And if they don't elect to do that, I'm still going to mention him, by golly, because I think it deserves mentioning and appreciate his hard work for the city. And Justin Hayes from over at the airport has been working with the city for 30 years this year. So just want to recognize those two employees, and I appreciate their contributions to our community. Other things, I've got them on my phone. So had an opportunity to meet with Senator Lummis's staff, Marcus Brubaker. We actually met up at the Airport Cafe. That was a really great opportunity. And as usual, I got cinnamon rolls. That's what I get every time. I need to branch out and try something else. I got eggs in addition to cinnamon rolls this time. But that was a good opportunity, some good food, good opportunity to be talking about some of the needs that we have in the community, and hopefully he can carry those on to Senator Lummis. I participated in the Downtowners cleanup. I was a late arriver, as in I woke up at 9 when they started rather than at 7 when the Rotary members started, which was fine. But we had a lot of fun. It was actually a really good opportunity. We pulled some weeds. We did a lot of work at the parking lot behind, because of who's in the audience, we'll say behind the dance academy there. Motion Bliss Academy and the Acme and that block there. It was a good opportunity with my kids. They enjoyed it. We worked for about an hour, and then I went and attended the Wyoming Firefighters Hall of Fame inducted 7 new members, which I think is more than they've ever inducted in 1 year, into the Hall of Fame, including their first woman, including Minnie from the Forestry Division, which was, both of those things were unique. It was a really fun opportunity. You're out in the sun, but luckily we had a little bit of some overhang from a tent there, but it was really good to listen to stories and just how everybody knew everybody. And one of the things I really enjoyed was the first one recognized was an older gentleman who'd been involved in firefighting for, I think, 34 years. And he was the first one recognized, and then after that, every single person recognized, he made sure he was the first one to stand up so that all of them got a standing ovation. Ironically enough, because he was the first one to do that, nobody gave him a standing ovation. But I just thought that was amazing to see the camaraderie, and Mr. Miller knows about this because he's been involved in the Fremont County Fire Protection District. But the camaraderie and the friendship and the just the good feeling that all of the firefighters had, and to realize that almost all of them are doing it without pay, with very little recognition, it was just humbling to see that. And so I really appreciated being able to attend that, and appreciate the Wyoming Fire Marshal putting that on every year as they do, and it was just a good service. Today's election day, and so I appreciate people getting out and voting. I would remind you that this is not the only time you have to vote. There's also November. Don't forget to vote. It's one of the most important things you can do as a citizen. I find that people sometimes get frustrated with the direction that their community, their state, their federal government is going, whatever it is. One vote can make a big difference. So I would definitely encourage you to get out and be that vote. On to Councilman Pronto's report. He says we have a bumper crop of grasshoppers this year. People may have noticed that or not. And that's led to a bumper crop of birds this year, which maybe people have noticed or not, which means we've had more strikes with aircraft and that kind of thing. And so it's required some post-strike grounding of the aircraft until an inspection was done and the aircraft was returned to service. So that's led to some delays both with private and our SkyWest as well. So interesting thing that it's a topic of conversation. I heard somebody mention the other day also in terms of prairie dogs. They're like, we've got a lot of prairie dogs, and I'm worried that that's going to mean badgers will come into town, which may be true. And so keeping an eye on these pests, they might not just be pests, they might be bringing in other things, which is partly why we have the Section 56 permit, which allows for the harvesting of urban deer and one of the reasons why we have a city ordinance that prevents you from feeding deer in town. So don't do that, just as a reminder. He said that Central Wyoming Regional Airport has outpaced Rock Springs, which is a big deal. I think that's awesome. Bigger community in terms of population of Rock Springs. I guess if you put together all of Sweetwater County, I don't know. That's bigger than Fremont County or not, but I think that's great news, and I was excited to hear that. Also led to designation as being larger capacity, which comes with some other opportunities with grants and that sort of thing. So that's good news. Also, we have the fly-in coming up. This is a little bit earlier than usual. Usually we have this September, and this year it's going to be in August. It's actually going to be August 24th. You may recall, this Saturday. You may recall that the fly-in has traditionally been something that Lander and Riverton have done. Well, we're now swapping off. So last year Riverton had the fly-in, this year Lander has the fly-in. So that will be starting at 8 a.m. for the pancake breakfast. Good opportunity to get out if you have any interest in aviation or actually just any interest in anything. They also have cars there, and it's just a lot of fun for an event to attend. Also would note, as was previously noted, we have the Rendezvous City Beef Roundup. That's this weekend as well, on Saturday again. And the Search and Rescue Banquet, which is at 6 p.m. on Saturday. So a lot of things going on this weekend, a lot of worthwhile causes. Okay, communication from the floor, citizens' comments. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council regarding an item that's scheduled for a public hearing, you'll have an opportunity during the public hearing to speak. If it's not on the agenda as saying it's scheduled for a public hearing, it's not scheduled for a public hearing. But generally speaking, if it's something that's an agenda item, if you want to get up and speak about an agenda item, we usually don't mind. Just get my attention, wave, and if I acknowledge you, then you can come up and speak regarding the item. In either event, whether now or later, if you're a part of a group, I'd ask you to limit your comments to 10 minutes. So split it up between the group, 2 minutes for this person, 5 minutes for this person, whatever it is. If you're an individual, I'd ask you to keep your comments to 5 minutes. I usually set a timer on my phone, so if you hear it beeping obnoxiously, that means your time's up. Doesn't mean we're going to have a hook that drags you away or anything like that. It's more of a courtesy, but would ask you to keep your comments to that time. If you would like to speak, I'd ask you to come up, to approach the podium, identify yourself for the record. And if you're with a group, if you could identify the group that you're with, just in the interest of keeping civility and keeping the meeting to a good amount of time and on topic, I'd ask you to address all comments and questions to me. That's just the way we tend to run meetings that are formal. Refrain from the use of individual names. Keep directed to the issue under consideration. If it's public comment, you can talk about anything right now. But I'd ask you also to refrain from making comments of a personal nature that might reflect upon the character of an individual or another speaker, name-calling, personal criticism, ridicule, that kind of thing. So if you'd like to come up now, the time is yours. I know it sounded like I wasn't finishing a sentence. I'm done. The time is yours. We'll go down rather than up. Yours.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Julie Buller, and I have 3 hats, so when you start your timer, Mayor.
You got 5 minutes.
The first 2 are short, the last one is chamber, it's long. So I just want to let you guys all know that we've had our second RHS All-Class Reunion Committee meeting. We had about around 18 people in attendance last night. At that meeting, we will be in the homecoming parade on September 13th. And please mark your calendars for July 18th and 19th, 2025. That'll be our next RHS All-Class Reunion. And we recruited some of the high school seniors to come help with that this year. So that's 1 hat. You can start the timer over.
Okay.
And now the PAC chair for the 0.5% economic development tax. So Kevin Krzyzewski and myself have been out meeting with all kinds of groups and organizations around Riverton. We have several more meetings scheduled, but we certainly know the value of that tax passing. And so as you guys probably all know, that the FCAG, Fremont County Association of Governments, at their last meeting, they did approve 5-2 to move forward with the new MOU, which basically is 43% for air, 17% for ground, and 20% for ambulance, and then 20% for the communities choosing for economic development projects. So what we would we would kindly request from you guys is that you consider putting together some kind of a town hall meeting that we can give a presentation to. You're not telling them to vote for the tax, not to vote for the tax. You're just allowing us to come, you guys put it together and allow us to come speak and share the information and the statistics that we've gotten on that, all the information we've gathered on the tax. You know, the voters basically said, hey, the citizens said, we don't like how you're spending this money. We listened, and so that was all modified based on your guys' help and support, but now we need to get the word out, and if you think Kevin and I can get that word out to this whole community, we need your guys' support for that. So any groups or organizations that we can get in front of, we would appreciate your help in doing that. Okay, my third hat is the chamber, and I don't want to start with the negative news for the chamber, but I have to. We found out, I guess that was this morning, and Kyle probably already knows, that we were not awarded the $5.6 million for our ARPA outdoor recreation grant, and the comment that we got was that it wasn't on the reservation. So, which was interesting, because when we read through the grant criteria for qualifying, it really wasn't on the grant. It was in the underserved population areas, which we felt like we did a really good job writing that grant and putting it together. So that was a huge disappointment for us to not get that. It's been mentioned that maybe some of that could fall under, what's the big grant that you guys are working on, Kyle? Kathy's mentioned it, that maybe that could fall under that. I don't know, but even Kyle Lato made some comments. I mean, I don't know where you're at with that. We gave a great package. So, I mean, if people could see that package and what was in it, maybe that would have some substance with moving that needle forward with that. So anyhow, that was really disappointing for us. But now we'll go on to the positive. So let's see, August 15th, we had our after hours, and that was a partnership with High Mountain Seasonings, 381, or excuse me, I'm getting my next ones mixed up. Roasted Bean and the Boba's Blossoms and Tea, and the Epic Spa Salon, and we had RHS that we partnered with on that, and we had, thanks to Reggie Miller with the high school, we had 11 organizations or clubs there, and that was academic and sports. We packed the house there at Roasted Bean, and those kids were amazing to listen to them speak about their different organizations and the things they've got going, and we're going to try to engage with them on some more things between the chamber partnerships with those kids. So that was amazing. Anybody that came to that, you saw the collaboration there between bringing the businesses and the students together. And they do want to make that an annual event, so we do plan to make that an annual event. And then, let's see, we had this morning a really productive meeting with the State Chamber Director, and we had our EDOs there from Winter Development, Idea Inc., Wyoming Business Council, and then several board members, and Mike was there as well, participated in that, and that was a very productive meeting that we got this morning with Heidi from the State Chamber. Let's see, September 5th is our next Lunch and Learn, and that will be WYO Today, basically navigating today's media. September 19th is our next after hours. That is at 381 subs. So we encourage you to come to that. We've really been doing well with these after hours, you guys. We had probably about 80 people, we figure, at this last one. We've been running about 60, so we encourage you guys to all come support those. It's about networking with our community, our government, our city, and all of our businesses. Let's see, September 5th is something I'm just going to throw out there for one of our chamber members. If you haven't seen it, Porter's is doing a fall celebration, and it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. He's going to be roasting s'mores, and they'll have bouncy houses and music, and so that's going to be on September 5th from 4 to 8 p.m. And then we've got 2 businesses here. I've been out talking to all of our members and just found out this week that we have 2 family-owned businesses here that'll be celebrating their 70th anniversaries this year, and that is Service Plumbing, the Fisters, and then Martin Lumber. So if you see those guys, I mean, that's amazing. 70 years in business with family-owned local businesses. So if you see them, make sure you tell them congratulations. Fister, I asked if we could help with any celebrations. The Fisters aren't going to do one, but Johnny Martin did say that I think October 4th is the date he's shooting for, so we will be doing a celebration there. And then I mentioned a few minutes ago, we've been helping the homecoming folks, or the high school with the homecoming. We were asked to help get our businesses on board. The kids want to come down and paint windows this year. So I went up and down Main Street today and easily got 20 businesses, which is what they're looking for, to decorate the windows. So we'll be decorating or helping the high school kids September 13th to parade at 2 o'clock. And then last but not least, the ED executive job position has been posted. So we did that on LinkedIn, trying to get some professionals out there. So if you guys have any recommendations for anybody, please send them to that or have them get a hold of us, because it's time to turn the gavel over to somebody new. So, okay? Any questions?
I think you'll get in the way.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anyone else? No requirement to speak. You don't have to be like a certain height or anything. Could have been. It may or may not have been referencing anything. All right. Well, if it's an agenda item that you're here to speak about, we'll try to give you some time later if you get my attention. Thank you for attending our meeting tonight. Administrative Services Director, Mrs. Harris, would you please read the consent agenda items by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Approval of the minutes, August 6, 2024, regular council meeting. Approval of the minutes, August 6, 2024, executive session. Approval of the minutes, August 13, 2024, special meeting. Approval of the minutes, August 13, 2024, executive session. Approval of the minutes, August 20th, 2024, Finance Committee meeting. And approval of the Finance Committee recommendations, August 20th, 2024.
Items requiring further discussion.
Your Honor, the Finance Committee met earlier this evening, and consideration of claims of $574,517.39. Also was requested credit card payments to Elon of $6,993.42, and payrolls and liabilities for August 9th in the amount of $230,752.23 for a total of $812,263.04.
All right. Chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Councilman Larson with the motion, Councilwoman Salisbury with the second. Any discussion, amendments?
Your Honor, I'll abstain from any Bailey Enterprises line items on the Finance Committee report.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. I vote aye. Motion passes. Public hearing and consideration fireworks permit application, Fremont County School District 25, September 13th, 20th, 27th, and October 11th, 2024. Administrative Services Director's report, please.
Thank you. Included in your packet this evening is the annual application for a fireworks permit submitted by the Riverton High School Activities Director, which is seeking approval to detonate a cannon at the Riverton High School home football games. The conditions of the permit application are complete, and should you have any questions, Mr. Miller is in attendance at tonight's hearing. Based on the information provided through the application process, staff recommends approval of the fireworks permit application as presented.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Salisbury with the motion, Councilman Bailey with the second. Oh, no, Councilwoman Cox.
Yeah.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. I vote aye. Motion passes. I declare the public hearing open. Hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes and other applicable laws. If you'd like to speak, please step up to the podium, tell us your name, and if you're with an organization. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this topic?
Seeing none, Your Honor, I move we close the public hearing.
Motion by Councilman Bailey to close the public hearing, second by Councilwoman Salisbury. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. I vote aye. Motion passes. I declare the public hearing closed. Chair would entertain a motion to approve the fireworks permit for Fremont County School District 25 for 3 dates in September and 1 in October.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Cox with the motion. Councilman Bailey with the second. Discussion, amendments? Anything?
Going off a lot.
Ah. Can that be arranged? Okay. Good.
As we speak.
As we speak, yeah. Is it practice right now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, we'll go cheer them on, maybe once we get done with the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. I vote aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Consideration of ordinance 24002, third and final reading, department heads hiring concurrence. Oh yeah, this is my report. I was going to find out who I needed to turn time over. As the council may recall, and folks in the audience may recall, this is a proposed change to the method of hiring department heads. Generally speaking, up until 2021, method of hiring department heads was basically that the city administrator would select, subject to, of course, any complaints or direction from the city council, the department heads. As of July 20th, 2021, the council considered a change to that would basically make it so that the city council would select department heads by majority vote. Based on that change, which went in effect at September 7th, 2021, at the third reading at our regular city council meeting. So since then, the governing body has been vested with the sole authority to select and appoint department heads. Only authority granted to the city administrator was to participate in the hiring of the department heads pursuant to Ordinance 21.10.030I. It ended up in a situation where the city administrator would supervise department heads for whom she or he had not been part of the selection process, but the city administrator still maintained the authority to terminate those department heads. This proposed ordinance would provide for the city administrator to make the selection of the department heads, however, subject to the consent and approval of the city council. It would not remove from the governing body the decision to the appointment of the department heads, but would basically give the city administrator the ability to first propose their desired appointment. As we've discussed previously, except for the cost associated with printing and ensuring electronic access to the proposed ordinance, it would not have any impact on the budget. So, Administrative Services Director, Mrs. Harris, could you please read ordinance number 24002 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 24-002, an ordinance amending Title II, Administration and Personnel, to revise Chapter 2.04, Mayor and City Council, Section 2.04.026, Chapter 2.10, City Administrator, Section 2.10.040, Chapter 2.12, City Clerk, Section 2.12.010, Chapter 2.13, City Treasurer, Section 2.13.010, Chapter 2.20, Community Development Director, Section 2.20.010, Chapter 2.24, Public Works Director, Section 2.24.010, Chapter 2.28, Chief of Police, Section 2.28.010, excuse me, of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for an effective date.
We should make sure you have water whenever you have a long, short title. Just so people know, that's a requirement per state statute to either read it by title only or read the whole thing. And I think reading it by title only in this case is probably the better option. Chair would entertain a motion to adopt Ordinance 24002 on third and final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bailey with the motion, Councilwoman Cox with the second. Any discussion?
My only discussion is I think most of the department heads were happy that we picked them because they were all hired by them. So
Yeah. Actually, that's a fair point. And sure appreciate that Mr. Butterfield has,
tough act to follow, Mr. Butterfield.
we've got some good people.
We did a pretty good job.
Your Honor, we have a great team. No complaints on my end.
Good. Anything else? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, we need to do, you're correct, thank you. We have to do a roll call vote. Well, we've already gotten Councilman Larson's roll vote. If you could please conduct a roll call vote.
Yes, Your Honor. Councilwoman Lindsay Cox,
Aye.
Councilman Mike Bailey,
Aye.
Councilman Kyle Larson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Christy Salisbury,
Aye.
Mayor Tim Hancock.
I vote aye. Motion passes. You always do well at reminding me of that. I appreciate it,
I'm here
Mr.
to help.
Bailey. Yeah. All right, next ordinance, ordinance number 24003, second reading, trees and shrubs. Public Works Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Last council meeting, council approved on first reading ordinance that would update chapter 8.20 of the Riverton Municipal Code that addressed care and maintenance of trees and shrubs in the city of Riverton. Also incorporated by reference the American National Standards Institute, ANSI A300 standards related to tree care practices. Also proposed in that ordinance was a new requirement that anybody claiming to be arborist or a tree care person had to meet certain standards, which outlined that they'd comply with the tree care standards in the ANSI A300. It also, after the first registration, if they're not already certified arborists, they would have 3 years to become certified arborists in the city of Riverton. It was modeled similarly after our contractors' licenses. This way, it provides some limited consumer protections. That people working on your trees are qualified to work on your trees. Also incorporated in that ordinance was the type of trees that would be permitted, or actually not permitted, but they would not be permitted on public right-of-ways. There's a certain list of trees in that proposed ordinance that were laid out by the tree board. Also requires liability insurance and also workers' compensation insurance. Several other changes in there as well. That were basically in parts of other ordinances that are just incorporated in this ordinance now as well. And I'd stand for any questions.
Ron.
Thank you.
Pacific Power and Light hires a crew normally to come through and make sure the lines on Sunset and different parts of of our area are tree free. Would they fall under that?
Your Honor, Councilman Larson, it's specifically outlined in the definitions of a commercial arborist. An employer or subcontractor of any duly franchised public utility who is solely employed and engaged in maintaining their utility is exempt from registering.
Good, okay, thank you.
We need a motion to have a discussion on.
I agree.
So I would so move that we pass 24.003.
I think we need to read it by title only. Let's start with that.
Okay, go ahead.
And then we'll deal with the motion if we can.
Thank you, Your
Please read ordinance 24003 by title only.
Yes, proposed ordinance number 24-003, an ordinance amending Title 8 Health and Safety, Chapter 8.20, Trees and Shrubs as Nuisances of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for an effective date.
All right. Have a motion to adopt ordinance 24003 on second reading by Councilman Bailey. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Cox. Further discussion? You can come on up, sir.
Mayor, Council, my name is Joseph Martinez. I am the owner of Wind River Lawn and Garden, LLC, which operates here in Riverton and in Lander. I would like to speak primarily on Section 10 of the proposed ordinance, 24-003. My business operation includes lawn and garden services, landscape design, contracting, and tree and shrub care. Although my business is not wholly concerned with the care and management of trees and shrubs, the passage of this ordinance would have a direct effect on my business. I will take some time to speak in opposition of this ordinance. I will take some time to speak in opposition of this ordinance. I do not think that Section 10 benefits the community that is engaged in the business mentioned in the ordinance. Ordinance will restrict new and local businesses that would like to make a fair entrance into the marketplace. It will also limit the options that customers and citizens have to yard care. Sections 10 of the ordinance as currently written imposes unnecessary regulations on existing businesses like mine, which have already demonstrated a commitment to responsible and effective practices in tree and shrub care. These regulations would require unnecessary licenses, fees, and compliance. For small businesses, these added requirements can be financially burdensome, leading to increased operational costs that may be passed on to the customers. This ultimately results in higher costs for residents who rely on our services to maintain safe and attractive properties. The ordinance, though well-intentioned, would stifle the growth of local businesses that have been serving this community for years. By introducing stricter requirements, including licenses and regulations, the ordinance would discourage entrepreneurship and limit competition. Healthy competition is crucial in any market because it fosters innovation, better services, and fair pricing. Preventing new businesses from entering the industry by erecting regulatory hurdles does not serve the public interest. Instead, it consolidates market control among a few large operators, which is detrimental to both consumers and small business owners. Section 10 of the ordinance would likely result in reduced access to quality, affordable services for residents, directly affecting the maintenance and safety of their properties. With increased regulations and costs, local businesses may need to pass these expenses on to their customers, making essential services like tree and shrub care more expensive and less accessible. For many homeowners, this could mean delaying or neglecting necessary maintenance, leading to overgrown trees, hazardous branches, and neglected landscapes. That would not only diminish property values, but would result in longer wait times and reduced service options for residents. The ordinance may inadvertently cause the very issues it aims by making it more difficult for customers to maintain their properties. I do not oppose the entirety of the proposed ordinance. I only oppose Section 10 because of the reasons stated: unnecessary regulations, stifling of competition, and restriction of access to safe and affordable yard maintenance services. I urge the mayor and the council to either amend the ordinance or to remove Section 10 or to vote nay on the ordinance altogether. I will stand for any questions if you have any. Thank you very much for your time.
Any questions for Mr. Martinez?
I guess I have one,
Go ahead,
Your
Mr.
Honor.
Bailey.
What would you propose for us to make sure that the contractors do the job appropriately if we don't have some kind of regulation that makes them, meet a standard? And I guess, do you think the 3 years to be able to get that certification is reasonable if you don't have it now?
Go ahead, Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would say that when I get my insurance, I'm not allowed to cut, because I don't really deal with trees specifically, so I'm not allowed to cut over 20 feet. So that's a regulation that I regulate myself too, and the insurance company regulates me too. I mainly deal with hedges and limbs that have fallen off or have not completely broken off and they're hanging down. And then could you ask the second part of your question again, sir?
Well, so part of the new regulation is that you would have 3 years to get certified.
So I'm not currently certified, and 3 years would be probably enough time for businesses that are currently operating in the field that I do to get certified. However, new businesses that are trying to make an entrance into the market, I think would be stifled if they had to go through the licenses and fees and regulations to be able to kind of provide those services.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Martinez.
Thank you for your time.
Your Honor, I have a question.
Councilwoman Salisbury?
By having any person, what is the cost to get certified, and what is for registration with the city? And does it, when you say any person, does that mean like when I hire a high school or lawn people to come do it? Or, I mean, to me, it's, again, I kind of agree with Mr. Martinez that for everyone to have to do it, is there like certain, if they have insurance, or I mean, if we're gonna, how are we going to enforce that? Are we gonna have our overworked policemen going around, oh, are you registered? Are you, when we have so many other issues? So is it really necessary is my question too, so.
You want to speak to that, Mr. Eggleston?
Your Honor, Councilwoman, the cost of registration is $50 a year. I haven't priced the cost of becoming certified. However, we felt that giving them a 3-year grace period was ample time for any existing business or even a new business coming in to get that certification if they don't already have it. It doesn't prevent you as an individual from doing work in your own yard. It deals with people that are actively employing themselves as a commercial business, as an arborist or anybody that cares for that type of shrubs, bushes, and that type of thing.
That would include like high school kids and everybody that, I kind of agree. I think it's gonna hurt more than it's gonna help, where people just will let them be overgrown instead of dealing with it, or.
Your Honor.
Mr. Butterfield?
Just really quick, as a point of reference, I quickly searched for the cost to become certified through the International Society of Arboriculture.
Yeah, arboriculture.
I haven't said that word before, but ISA, so arboriculture. As a certified arborist, if you're part of the society, the exam costs $150. For non-members, it's $250. If a member of the society sponsors you, the cost is $170. And it looks like there's an administrative fee of $125 if you do a computer-based test. So it looks, if we were using kind of round numbers, that it could cost up to about $400 to take the test. I think it's also important to note that this is only for trimming shrubs and trees. It's not for people that are hired to mow lawns or anything of that nature. This is for those that are actually pruning trees and shrubs.
Your Honor.
Hold on just a second. Mr. Bailey, you've been,
Go ahead.
Councilwoman Cox.
I understand that if it's a business for that specifically, but if you have my 17-year-old son mowing your lawn and ask him to trim a tree branch that's just a little too low when you walk underneath, is he going to need to get certified for that? Or can we, or if we just need a bush that's now over the mailbox trimmed back, but, you know, mostly his clientele are older people that can't do it themselves. While he's there, hey, do you mind trimming that shrub back just a little bit? You know, it's blocking my view when I back out of my driveway, just a simple thing like that. I think that's where we're going to get hung up. It's not that they're hired for that specifically, but when you have a teenage boy that can reach something or is able to carry it off better than you, then what are those circumstances going to look like? They're not going to be doing that full time.
Right, that's not, that wouldn't be their actual commercial business. Their business is lawn care more than anything. Removing a tree limb or that's dangling, if you can reach it, I don't see that being an issue with this ordinance. This is primarily geared towards people that are holding themselves out as a commercial arborist or tree care business.
And I guess my comment would be similar to what Lindsay was saying is, you know, I think what Mr. Martinez has explained and that he does with his business is more lawn care maintenance is what I would consider it, as opposed to a arborist, tree trimming service, whatever you want to call it, because, and so maybe we need to figure out how to put some language in that definitely segregates what he does or what Lindsay's saying, that your teenage kid that's mowing your lawn and trimming your hedge and cutting a few low-hanging branches so that they don't fall under this regulation. And again, I didn't read it thoroughly, but I think we could probably make it to where that's clear so that we have a clear-cut difference between, you know, what lawn and yard care is compared to tree trimming and arborists.
It sounds like you were trying to be punny there with talking about clear-cut delineations. And
Your Honor,
I know I'm not a lawyer, sorry.
Clipping things out of ordinances.
right now it states no person can even prune a bush. I mean,
Yeah.
and you can't say, well, you're 17 and you're doing the same work that the 21-year-old's doing. So, I mean, it's either going to be yard care or it's going to be tree care. But if you're doing yard care and you have to do tree care, then the tree people are going to say, hey, you're doing that too, so why should I have to do this? So what are we really trying to do here?
Well, and so commercial arborist is defined as any person, firm, or corporation engaged in the business of cutting, trimming, pruning, spraying, injecting chemicals, or removing trees or shrubs or hedges, and all other woody vegetation for compensation. So if you're doing it for money, which you probably would be, however, an employee or subcontractor of a duly franchised public utility. So that's the definition of a commercial arborist, and then you come down to section 10, as Mr. Martinez gets us in the right spot. No person or firm shall engage in the business of a commercial arborist. So you can't be engaged in the business of engaging in the business. Just laugh at that kind of language, but or other occupation of pruning, trimming, or removing public trees, shrubs, or hedges or trees, shrubs or hedges on private property within the city without first registering with the community development director. I wonder, so there's a couple of ways we could go about this. You could just say, well, get rid of section 10 altogether. And that doesn't quite get to what the tree board was looking for. I mean, they're wanting to make sure that, basically, I think that the evil they're trying to ensure doesn't happen is that somebody goes and says, yeah, I'll trim your hedges. And they go and trim your hedges in a way that's going to be very unhealthy for them. They're not going to grow back. They're going to die.
Kills them.
And we don't want that. So that's the evil we're looking for. I think in terms, and evil, I mean, I'm just saying every ordinance has got to have a specific goal, right? I don't think this is something where we're trying to target 17-year-olds out there, or 15 or 16, whatever the age is, trimming hedges. I don't think this was meant to be necessarily targeting folks that are doing, for the most part, a lawn and garden business. I almost feel like you could do something akin to how we do a, rather than being a bar, depending on how much percentage of your work is arboring. I don't know if that's a word. Is it a word? Arboring? Depending on what percentage of your work is arboring, you could say you wouldn't have to be.
But Your Honor,
I don't know.
are we having trouble in town that people are upset that their hedges are getting trimmed too much and they're dying? Like, is that the issue?
Well, the tree board seems to think that there's a necessity for this. And I mean, and they're the ones that are keeping an eye on the health of our trees and our shrubs and that kind of thing.
Private property?
Well, I'd say both.
I mean, if it's private property and they're,
I guess there's a certain amount of consumer protection that this is helping with. But I don't think the work that Mr. Martinez is saying that they do in lawn and garden care is what they're really looking to prevent. I think,
and he has
you know,
insurance.
we're wanting somebody not to
Right.
go up and butcher your tree to the point where it's gonna fall over or die.
Well, then it creates more of a,
Right.
it creates more of a public hazard than it would if they didn't do it.
Right. Now, I would argue that the public utilities probably do a worse job than anybody else I've ever seen, but I don't want to get in trouble. But, and then also, Mr. Miller's been waving at you and needs to comment.
Oh, Mr. Miller.
Your Honor, I was going to interject there just for a second. There's a subjectivity to implications of rules, and when we talk about teenagers doing work, this gets right into my realm of understanding. For example, a 13-year-old running a lemonade stand on the corner isn't required to come down and get a permit, and they're not required to have a health inspection, an inspection from the health department.
Thank goodness.
We actually fight against that very specifically because young entrepreneurship is really integral in our community. So there is a subjectiveness to that. And Mr. Martinez brings up some good facts. He's not Wright's Tree Service or Davy Tree Service that's out logging, that's out removing with a crane operation, removing 75-foot cottonwoods from a neighborhood development. He does kind of interject somewhere along those lines where some minor portions of the work that he does do, it kind of applies to it a little bit, but there's subjectivity to that. We allow that to be allow that to be there. But it's pretty important that folks know that we don't have any interest coming after the teenagers that are doing lawn work, that are helping folks out and making compensation. The language of the code needs to state pretty specifically that we can't write that out. We don't have the ability to write that out. If we write it out, we're either out there arresting 8-year-olds selling lemonade on the street corner, which is an absolute travesty in every way, shape, and form, or we just let everybody do everything. By putting the language in there and then being subjective, we do that.
Well, and I think the point is that's where you get in trouble as a government. If you're going to be enforcing the law in a subjective way, that's where you start losing any sort of immunity to being sued. I mean, that's no bueno. It's no good. I don't know why I had to throw out Spanish there.
Your Honor, I appreciate this discussion. Potentially, an approach that could be taken is, as part of this registration, liability insurance, workers' compensation insurance, and also certification component of this proposal, you could also condition it upon the size of the tree that's being worked on. I doubt anybody is going to hire a 14-year-old to take down a 30-foot to 50-foot tree.
I know some people that probably would, but they're family.
And maybe that's the instance, but having been a scoutmaster for a lot of years, I don't know if I would engage a 12-year-old or 13-year-old in doing that. You could potentially look at this for third reading to modify this section as it relates to size of tree that's being worked on. The ordinance already proposes definitions for small, medium, large trees. That may be a common ground to approach the concerns that are being brought up, where if you're lopping a limb off that's hanging low that's going to scratch on the roof of a vehicle, that's very different than taking down a 40 to 50-foot pine tree.
I was wondering
The
it.
shrubs and hedges.
Yeah.
And Your Honor, I don't have a good answer on the shrubs or hedges. We'll take your direction if you'd like to include that or remove it from the ordinance.
I would say, I think, one easy way you could do this, and this is the language I was thinking of, is just in terms of defining a commercial arborist. You could specifically remove from the definition, and you could say, so it says, however, an employee or subcontractor of a duly franchised public utility, blah, blah, blah. And then you could add something like, additionally, any pruning, cutting, trimming, et cetera, incidental to lawn care might address that.
Your Honor.
Then you get into what does incidental mean, right? And the other question then is are we trying to deal with people that are holding themselves out as tree care? You know what I mean? And by that I mean if you're specifically advertising yourself as doing tree care, that's one thing. Whereas if your title specifically is Wind River Lawn and Garden, and you're like, somebody comes there and they're like, yeah, could you take care of this tree while you're here? That's a different story. That's why I was getting into the percentages, almost like, if your business is holding itself out as someone who is going to do that as a service, that's one thing. Whereas if it's more of an incidental thing where you're either a kid that's doing it and you're just doing it as a favor or something, I don't know.
Your Honor.
It's a difficult situation.
By saying no person instead of saying no commercial, or business that does trees. No person can do it. That means whether you're a teenager or older person that's just going around doing it or whatever. And then the shrubs and hedges don't make sense.
But if you start getting into talking about like, oh, no person over 18, then it's like,
Well,
why are
I
we
would just
adding
say
an
the
age?
why don't we make it about the commercial arborist or tree
Well, that's-
businesses and take out no person and take out shrubs and hedges?
Well, I guess that's my point, is if you say a person holding themselves out as an arborist. So in other words, they're saying, I do tree care. That's part of what I do. I imagine, though, Mr. Martinez, that's part of, when you're talking to customers, though, you are saying, we are willing to handle trees up to a certain height, though.
Yeah, I will say up to a certain.
Right. Mr. Bailey?
And I don't think you're ever going to hire an arborist to come trim your hedge. which is
No.
the kind of work that he would do.
And that gets into the
And
height.
so, again, I think the hedges and bushes part, I would agree is, I don't know that that needs to be in there. I think what we're looking to is, again, somebody that's gonna come cut down your 50-foot pine tree, that we wanna make sure that they're insured and trained, so they'll do it properly.
That's a good,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a good point. You could specifically remove the shrubs or hedges because that's not as much of a public risk. It's not something where, I mean, depending on how overgrown your hedge is.
Well, and there, you might, if it's a certain size, you would hire someone with bigger equipment if you're tearing them out, and then they would have that requirement. I would suggest that we get rid of the shrubs and bushes. And maybe 20 feet.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
that's
just
what the
leave it at
insurance
the-
company
yeah.
uses. That's gonna be sort of an industry standard, probably.
The other question, the other thing we could talk about, so Mr. Butterfield was looking up the requirements to join the ISA, International Society of, I'm not gonna try it.
Arboriculture.
Arboriculture. The,
Can't say it, but they have to.
yeah. The requirement for that, interestingly enough, is that you would have to either have a bachelor's degree in something. Now, that's not the only one, Mr. Martinez. You don't got to go out and go get a bachelor's degree. It says 4-year bachelor's degree with a minimum of 4 courses directly related to arboriculture, plus 1 year of practical full-time experience, or a 2-year associate degree with a minimum of 2 courses directly related to arboriculture, plus 2 years of practical full-time experience, or, because they're trying to be helpful, you have to have a minimum of 3 years of full-time experience in arboriculture or a combination of education and practical arboriculture experience. Now, in theory, that sounds great, but if you're doing lawn and garden care and just do arboriculture on a part-time basis at most, I don't know that you could fit that. And so that's where the 3-year requirement comes from, which makes sense, right? We're saying, okay, you're holding yourself out, you go do it for 3 years, then you pay your money to the ISA and they let you join the club, and you say, "Yes, I've been doing this," and maybe pass a test, I don't know. But so that makes sense, but if you're doing it on a part-time basis, then the 3 years doesn't work. So you could never do it.
I don't even think he wants to call himself out as an arboriculturist.
Right.
And I think, so yeah, I think we have to come up with a set of parameters, and if the ones that his insurance company uses is sort of industry standard, I think that would work. And so
Or small
that's
businesses.
what I would suggest, is that we look at tweaking some language to
I think it's easy
you know,
enough to do, I think.
specifically exclude the lawn and garden, or lawn and care folks.
I believe we could eliminate the shrubs and bushes and all other woody vegetation and just leave the trees. Probably the size of the tree, anything over 20 foot is probably a commercial arborist, actually with a lift truck that's.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's the ones that you're worried about falling down and hitting a house or something if somebody screws it up. What we could do, we could go about this 2 ways. We could come up with some language right now, or we could vote on it and approve it on second reading with the idea we'll come up with some language on third reading, or we could table it. And we could say, hey, let's get somebody from the tree board here so we could have some more educated discussion about what they were looking for, bring up some of the concerns that have been expressed that I think all of us have expressed. And that might be another way to do it too. That way we're not putting it all on a third reading and we could come back and discuss it at
That'd be
second again.
reasonable.
So if there's any language anyone wants to propose, or if you want to propose tabling it, or if you want to just vote on it and get it done, I'd consider any motions as to whatever.
Your Honor, I would move that we table second reading to our next regular meeting, as you outlined.
Do I have a second for the motion to table?
Can I ask a question? Will they be rewriting it in the meantime?
I think we could ask staff to look at some ideas.
Yeah, to have some proposed language to address what we're talking about.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
may I speak a little bit about this?
Sure. We have a second for the motion to table. If we don't, then it just dies. I'm just curious if,
I will second if there will be rewriting it in the meantime.
okay,
Your Honor,
yes.
to that question, when you table this action, it is exactly how it is proposed right now, but what you're doing is you're allowing yourself to become more educated on the topic, and as you mentioned, to bring in a member of the tree board to provide information that you do not currently have tonight. And what you'd allow is for further discussion to then develop that language.
I will say we get ourselves in a little bit of a predicament when we have a motion to table because technically you're not supposed to be discussing. It's just supposed to be voted on. And then we move on. So I know you wanted to discuss. So then maybe you would say no to the tabling. All in favor of the motion to table this ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, so, Mr. Larson. I'm not trying to be technical, but it is.
No.
No, I
Your
didn't get that.
Your Honor, please just as a point of order for the minutes, could we get the votes?
1,
Aye.
0.
Nay. Aye. Nay, did I hear a nay from you?
Nay.
So
0.
Nay.
it failed.
I still didn't get that.
Nay.
Nays?
Nay.
Nays?
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay. Nay.
Your nay?
So it
Yes.
failed.
Oh, I was aye.
1 to
4, 1 to 4.
2 to 3.
2 to 3, yes.
Thank you.
Did I?
I always nay.
Okay,
Oh.
okay. Your Honor, can I say something?
Go ahead.
Anyway, I own some apartments, and on Mary Ann Street, there are some big trees running through the alleyways. Big enough that last year I had one fall and knock my fence down on the lateral side. And so then immediately I said, I talked to Schooner Excavation, and he said, he's my go-to guy for stuff. And I said, do you have a person that cuts trees? He said, by George, I do. He's parked his equipment in my yard here up on 8th West. And here's his phone number. So he resides in Thermopolis. This is in November of last year. In July of this year, he finally got around to mine, gave me an estimate. I said, have at it. It was completed in August. My point is that we don't have a lot of arborists that are cutting big trees down. They're really under demand or overworked or whatever. It's not like the shingle business. You need some big equipment, and the Chinese elm that I had in my backyard, it takes 2 men to lift a piece over the fence. So I've still got to cut them up. You can't take them to solid waste because they do not accept anything over 8 inches. So,
You can take them to solid waste, but you just take them to the regular trash rather than the,
no, it says 8 inches.
oh, okay.
You can't cheat on solid waste. I mean, how would I be as a board member cheating on my own board? My goodness. Anyway, so what I'm trying to really say is cutting trees down is, with the equipment that they've got, is quite an investment. And I don't know. My wife spent like too much money in our backyard on the school property on crabapple trees that got the fire blight. She dug them out, cut them up herself. So all of that said, I'm just wondering if we're not, the tree board needs more input into this. If they need this, then they need to be here in the audience and telling us why we need this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? We already have a motion to pass it on second reading. So that's what we have right now. We don't have any specific ideas, I think, for the language, other than some requests to remove the shrubs.
And we can do it all on third reading, but if we don't, it fails, and then you gotta start over, so. Or not start over at all, so.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
would it be helpful if we asked the tree board, obviously, to attend, but in the interim, to look at other certifications? Because Mr. Eggleston and I were just speaking, and he was not aware that the ISA certification required the degree that was mentioned. We just looked it up and confirmed that. So there may be another certification that the tree board can propose to you as a third reading option.
So I guess the request to staff is to come up with some language that can take care of, we see what we're trying to address here, at least that's what we anticipate, is worrying about larger trees and basically having the health of those trees deteriorate such that they create a public health hazard, nuisance. So having some language that would remove that language about shrubs, woody plants, that kind of thing, and consider, since we've got it specifically delineated anyway in the ordinance in terms of up to 20 feet anyway.
Your Honor, as a suggestion, maybe commercial arborist, after removing trees over 20 foot in height or 20 foot or over, is a commercial arborist. Anybody trimming a tree below or up to 20 feet is not considered a commercial arborist.
That would work.
That could be an easy way to do that.
Your Honor, with removing the shrubs and bushes.
Okay. So do we want to pass this now and vote on it now?
We need to
and
make a
then
motion with those amendments.
We could, or we could ask for the amendments to be presented to us at the next meeting at third reading.
That'd probably be better so we could
Yeah.
read it.
That would be
Okay.
easy enough to do.
All right, staff can do that. Then do we have any other discussion? Or are we ready to vote? All in favor of passage of ordinance 24003 on second reading as it has been presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Oh, you guys. I will vote aye so that we can get this done on third reading. All right. So, motion passes. Feel free to come to the next meeting. We can discuss it more. I think what you've been asking for has not fallen on deaf ears, and we'll make sure we get something that works. Thanks for being here, Mr. Martinez. All right, next up, ordinance 24004 on second reading, public intoxication. Police chief's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. For use, as for amending 9.08.200 of the public intoxication of the Riverton Municipal Code. The section prohibits public intoxication as used by officers as they address issues and respond to complaints. It currently states, no person shall be in a public place, street, or sidewalk, or in any vehicle parked on a public place, street, or sidewalk, while under the influence of alcoholic beverage or a combination, or a drug, or combination of alcoholic beverage and drug, to the degree that he or she is unable to care for his or own safety. Section B of that statute says that violations shall be punishable by a fine up to $750 and or incarceration of up to 6 months. As discussed within the PD, there's talk of adopting and changing some of the language to clean it up and use other language from other cities. And with that, the new proposal for Section A would include no person shall be in a public place, street, or sidewalk, and the added section of, or added language or the property of another without the consent of the other, of the owner. And this would help clarify an example of maybe somebody's walking home from a bar or an event, and it's middle of the night, and they're in somebody's lawn underneath their window, and obviously they don't belong there. And maybe the officer gets a call, and the officer can't, maybe no one's answering the door because of the late hour. They're able to identify who the person is, and they're able to make enforcement action if somebody's intoxicated on somebody's lawn or their front yard. Also, we're adding the language as demonstrated by staggering, weaving, or unable to stand unassisted, vomiting, speaking incoherently, obscene speech, offensive gestures, or any other indecent or obnoxious conduct or act. And that will help clarify the term for his or her own safety and to what degree. Under Section B, on the first reading, we also included an option. So if we do establish alternative through the court, that they can sentence somebody for up to 40 hours of community service on conditions prescribed by the municipal court. And that's for the future expansion for if there is an option that is acceptable by the court, then the judge can have that option to sentence somebody for that. Section C was also added. A peace officer may release from custody instead of taking the person before the court, a person arrested for public intoxication in the following circumstances. One is the person was arrested for intoxication only and no proceedings are desirable. The person was arrested only for being under the influence of a controlled substance or drug, and the person is delivered to a facility or hospital for treatment and no further proceedings are desirable. And 3, the person was arrested and subsequently delivered to a hospital or other urgent care facility, including but not limited to a facility for the treatment of co-occurring substance use disorders for mental health evaluation and treatment, and no further proceedings are desirable. The available alternatives for this second reading is council can adopt language consistent with the first reading. Alternative would be to amend conditions of the ordinance as relates to the options of sentencing, community service, as this provision, if it was done through the city, may impact the city's premium requirement with workers' compensation and increased staffing obligations in order to supervise those performing the service. Or amend the conditions of the ordinance as relates to subparagraph C, as it may create liability risk for the city once an arrested individual is released from the city's custody. And that, Your Honor, I'd be open for questions and discussion on how the council would like to proceed.
Okay. I appreciate it. Ms. Harris, could you please read ordinance 24004 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 24-004, an ordinance amending Title IX, Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare to revise Chapter 9.08, Offenses Against Public Peace and Decency, Section 09.08.200, Public Intoxication of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing for an effective date.
Entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 24004 on second reading.
Your Honor, I make a motion to adopt it, removing the amendment to Section B and adding Section C, removing those.
Second.
Okay, so the motion is for adoption of, let me make sure I'm in the right place here. Removing section C.
B and C.
B, or the changes to B and C, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the motion? And second? Okay, so motion is for passage of ordinance 24004 on second reading with the amendments as noted. Discussion. Already ready for prime time,
Call for the
huh?
question then.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. I need to go back to our prior motion, and I would just note that I erred in saying that that motion passed on second reading. Ordinances, in order to be passed, have to have not a majority of those present, but a majority of the qualifying members of the council. So a vote of 3
Didn't pass.
would not be sufficient. So just would note for the record that the ordinance regarding trees and shrubs on second reading failed. On my review of the statute, unless you think I'm wrong, Mr. Butterfield, but I just looked it up, 15:1. Sorry, I was a little distracted while you were talking, Chief, but I was realizing we've been here before with another ordinance, as I recall. And it specifically says, let me find it. Every ordinance shall be publicly read. So this is 15:1, 115.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
may I suggest a brief recess so that we can research this, confirm, and then come back?
8:41 is a great time for a recess.
Thank you.
Let's recess. We'll recess until 8:55.
Also, not having, it's illegal to park in a parking lot without having valid and properly displayed permits, tags, or license plates, without having current registration, and also from parking a vehicle that is inoperable or abandoned, meaning that it cannot be operated lawfully on a public street or highway within the state of Wyoming, or it cannot be moved under its own power. Those vehicles or that type of behavior when it comes to parking would be illegal based on the general prohibitions as proposed in this ordinance. It also states that you cannot utilize a vehicle or a trailer in any of the parking lots owned, operated, leased, or maintained by the city as a temporary or permanent living quarters, meaning for use to sleep, stay, live, dwell, or habitate. The ordinance also prohibits a person from parking any trailer or vehicle without propelling power that is unhitched or detached or disconnected from the vehicle intended for its haul. Basically, you can't drop a trailer and leave it in the municipal parking lots. You would, however, be able to pull into any of these parking lots for a certain period of time if you had the trailer attached to your vehicle, which we oftentimes have here at City Hall, where someone will pull in with a horse trailer or something of that nature. The ordinance provides the City of Riverton the ability to remove vehicles that need to be removed so that the city can maintain or repair the parking lots. That would include cleaning operations, construction, repair, snow removal, and emergencies or other city services. Pursuant to our existing ordinances, violation of this proposed chapter or anything listed therein would represent a misdemeanor and we'd be subject to the punishments or penalties as listed in 120.010 of Municipal Code. It also allows that the City of Riverton may immobilize, tow, or impound any vehicle in violation of the proposed chapter. And for clarification, first reading did have a provision that restricted overnight parking. specifically between the hours of 2:30 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. That provision, however, was removed from the ordinance prior to passing on first reading. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Butterfield. I appreciate it. Administrative Services Director Mia Harris, please read Ordinance 24005 by title only.
Proposed ordinance number 24-005, an ordinance amending Title 10 Vehicles and Traffic to create Chapter 10.18 Municipal Parking Lots and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to adopt Ordinance 24005 on second reading.
So moved.
Councilwoman Cox with the motion, Councilwoman Salisbury with the second. Discussion, amendments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. I vote aye. Motion passes. Consideration of Resolution 1507, Eastern Shoshone Business Park Planned Unit Development. Mr. Miller, please give us your report.
Your Honor, Council, thank you. We've heard the beginning conversation of the Eastern Shoshone Business Park PUD edition earlier. I presented this to get direction from council to have permission. There's two parties that sign on this PUD, the Eastern Shoshone Business Group, or CITA LLC, and the Riverton City Council. So I first presented it to you to get your authorization to present it to CITA. It has been presented to CITA and signed, and now I'm presenting Resolution 1507 to you in total. In 2018, the PUD agreement was completed for the Eastern Shoshone Business Park. This agreement outlines the development standards for the business park. These standards range from building guidelines to setbacks. Recent development within the business park development brought to light the need to modify the PUD as it relates to fencing requirements. In brief, conditions of the existing agreement prohibit a retail development firm from creating an enclosed outdoor sales floor adjacent to their building. This restriction was an unexpected byproduct of the existing terms of the PUD. To remedy the issue, city staff prepared new language to be included in the PUD agreement. This language is included below in red, Section F. Any fence directly attached on both sides of a retail establishment for the sole purpose of creating an outdoor sales floor area and used as such is limited to the height of the retail establishment at the point it is attached. This may exceed the 8-foot maximum height fencing requirements as listed above. Furthermore, the outside sales created area by this fenced-in area cannot exceed the square footage of the interior floor space of the building itself, and the square footage used for the fenced area counts against the clear space requirements for the PUD itself. For the purpose of this section of code, it is not classified as a fence, but as a building material to create an outside sales area attached to the structure. In short, a lot of retail-style businesses today have indoor sales areas and outdoor sales areas. And to secure their outdoor sales areas, it is a common practice today to build a large fence that attaches to the building on two sides and creates that fencing area. That fence is usually, as in Walmart or Sutherland's or a proposed TSC, that fence is usually as tall as the building itself as part of the security parameters of that building. On June 4th, 2024, City Council considered and approved the above proposed modification to the PUD agreement. The language in resolution format was then provided to CITA LLC for consideration, and CITA LLC approved the modification on August 14th, 2024. Resolution 1507 is now ready for final approval of City Council and execution of Mayor Hancock. Is my recommendation today that we approve Resolution 1504 as written, and I'd stand for any questions.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Harris, if you could please warm up your voice and read Resolution 1507 by title only.
Thank you. Resolution number 1507, a resolution approving the addition to the Eastern Shoshone Business Park ESBP Planned Unit Development PUD guidelines for approximately 304.88 acres of land located in the northwest one quarter, southwest one quarter, and the southeast one quarter, Section 23, Township 1 North, Range 4 East, Wind River Meridian, currently addressed as 2675 North Federal Boulevard, City of Riverton, Fremont County, Wyoming.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 1507.
So moved.
Councilman Bailey with the motion, Councilwoman Salisbury with the second. Any discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
does this mean that you cannot have an outdoor area that is boxed by chain link fence?
So this is only for the planned urban development area for the Eastern Shoshone Business Park.
I
It's
mean,
that
like
PUD
tractor,
only.
like the tractor facility over there, that means they cannot have an outside place like we have,
Murdoch's or
like Murdoch's.
Sutherland's. Mr. Miller, if you want to address that.
Your Honor, Counsel, yeah, I can absolutely address that. This does not disparage the ability to fence off and create any sort of the like. What it does is the fencing requirements for a non-attached outside area, say similar to Murdoch's, if we consider Murdoch's in this parking lot, that outside fence would still be allowed in this area. There is a fencing requirement of a maximum height of 8 feet for that. What this is referring to is this is adding the section of the fencing that's attached to the side of the building, like the garden center at Walmart. If we consider that garden center at Walmart, that building material is fencing material, but it's really what we're talking about is considering that an outside sales area, and that fence is part of a building platform instead of just a fencing platform.
So I missed your yes or no.
Yes, so you can, yes, absolutely, you can have both. It's providing the regulation for the possibility of both of them to be perfectly fine.
Okay.
Your Honor, previously the PUD did not allow for an outdoor sales floor. This amendment does allow for that outdoor sales floor.
Good.
With the fence that would exceed the 8-foot height that is otherwise the maximum. So in other words, we're saying you can have the outdoor sales floor and it can have a fence that would exceed that otherwise maximum. So the purpose of this is to make it so that if Tractor Supply wants to have an outdoor sales floor, they can.
It expands the utilization of their property.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have anything?
And, Your Honor, is this just for that lot, or is this for the entire? So if they decide to sell to another business similar to that next door, is that okay for them? Or
Yes.
is it just for this one lot?
It's for the entire.
Your Honor, Counsel, it's for the entire PUD, the entire 304.88 acres.
Okay, so they won't be here next year asking for the same thing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're not spot giving permission to Tractor Supply. This would be established equally amongst anybody else that would be buying locations there.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you for the clarification, Councilman Larson. I appreciate you trying to cut to the point, too. I understand. All right. All in favor of passage of Resolution 1507, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. I vote aye. Motion passes. Consideration of Ordinance 1508, Safe Streets for All Grant Application. Mr. Eggleston, please give us your report.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution would be in support of us submitting a grant for the state Safe Streets for All program. This would support planning, infrastructure development, behavioral and operational initiatives to prevent death and serious injuries on roads and streets, pathways involving all users, including pedestrians, bicyclists, public transportation, personal conveyance, micro-mobility users, motorists, commercial vehicle operators, etc. We've identified preliminarily a few locations around the city that would benefit from this grant. This is a planning grant. For instance, the intersection at West Main and Hill Street, realigning that intersection so it's safer for all the users. Also discusses potentially rebuilding Airport Road and adding a pathway along that, as we did in the RAISE grant. We also discussed, at least initially, extending West Sunset at College View to run through and connect to Moorfield and go up to the Agriculture and Equine Center. We met with the college earlier this week, myself and Mr. Butterfield, and they're very supportive of this project if it comes to fruition. Right now, there's in excess of $1.2 billion allocated for this year for planning and infrastructure grants in this program. As I said, before we can have an infrastructure grant, we have to have the planning grant in place and actually plan out the projects with a task force and several citizens meetings and make sure we have the buy-in we need throughout the community. But at this point, we're just requesting support of Resolution 1508 so we can apply for the grant.
Thank you. Administrative Services Director, if you could please read Resolution 1508 by title only.
Resolution number 1508, a resolution of the governing body of the City of Riverton supporting the submission of a Safe Streets for All planning grant to improve and promote safety throughout the roadway and recreational pathway networks in and around Riverton, Wyoming.
Thank you very much. I'd entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 1508.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bailey with the motion, Councilwoman Cox with the second. Discussion, amendments.
I think this is a project that very much needs done. Getting into that new complex is very challenging. This will make it clean and easy to do, and that whole Hill Street, Moorfelt, Sunset corridor will be improved greatly, and it'll give us additional access to the hospital. If College View's having a problem, you'd be able to come in through Hill Street, and so I think it's a great improvement to the city.
If we get it.
Oh, we're gonna get it.
I agree, all of these.
Gotta think positive.
Well, I really appreciate your work for this, Mr. Eggleston, and I understand you had some assistance.
Yes, we have.
And this has really been a collaborative effort.
Yes, we have. Kathy Klein has participated. A lot of the original grant, as you recall, the Active Transportation Initiative that you supported by resolution a month or so ago, was predominantly drafted by her with our input. Some of the same language is being used in this application. However, I basically rewrote it this weekend, so.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your hard work on this, and I had discussed this a little bit actually with the Kiwanis Club, but a good amount of our budget is from grants. We really have city staff that goes out of their way to try to make sure we have the infrastructure, facilities, everything we need, and I appreciate your hard work on it. So thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. Oh, I vote aye. I get that in there. Airport lease agreement, AEROAVIATION. You think we could have done these parts earlier for some of our audience members? Public Works Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. The first lease agreement is involves a hangar that was previously owned by Jerry Diltz. What this does is grant approval to basically terminate the existing lease and add a new ground hangar lease for AEROAVIATION LLC, Central Wyoming Airport. Mr. Hackett, the principal of AEROAVIATION, has been working with Jerry Diltz. They've already completed the sale of the hangar. All this lease does is transfer that a new lease agreement to Mr. Hackett. It also includes new verbiage that we include in our new hangar leases, which limits the lease frame to 25 years. It starts out with a 10-year lease period with 3 successive 5-year terms. This is to make sure that the hangars that are at the facility are maintained in good order. Some of the older leases were 50-year leases, and at the end of a 50-year lease, the hangar might not be worth anything, so we wanted to check that box and make it more palatable for the city and the FAA. But seek approval on this lease agreement, and these guys can move forward. Answer any questions if you have any.
Sounds good. I'd entertain a motion to approve the termination of the existing ground hangar lease for Jerry Diltz and grant approval of a new ground hangar lease for AEROAVIATION LLC at the Central Wyoming Regional Airport.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Larson with the motion, Councilman Bailey with the second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Airport lease agreement, KRAUS Enterprises.
Thank you, Your Honor, Council. This is very similar to the last lease change. Jim and Wanda Steinhoff have sold their hangar to KRAUS Enterprises LLC. They desire to terminate their existing lease, and KRAUS Enterprises will enter into a new lease with the city of Riverton under the new standards.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to approve the termination of the existing ground hangar lease for Jim and Wanda Steinhoff and grant approval of a new ground hangar lease for KRAUS Enterprises LLC at the Central Wyoming Regional Airport.
So moved. Second.
Councilman Larson with the motion, Councilman Bailey with the second. Discussion or amendments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passed. We need an executive session tonight.
No, Your Honor.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Larson with the motion. Putting my notes on the wrong spot. Councilman Larson with the motion, Councilwoman Cox with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. We are adjourned at 9:17 p.m.
Who to?
Thank you, everyone.
Who to?